Hello Anatomy Geeks, it's Vix, and today I'm going to talk to you about the pelvic floor, the core and the bandhas. So as you probably know, the bandhas in yoga are these energetic locks, and we have the Mula Bandha, which we're going to talk mostly about today, and that is that root lock, and that is kind of pulling up that perineum, pulling up that pelvic floor. A lot of you might already use this in teaching, and you might tell your students to engage your Mula Bandha, and you've taught them over time how to do that. And then during the class, every now and again, or quite often, we then say, inhale or exhale, and then Mula Bandha comes in or up, and you practice like that. Have you ever thought about whether that's good in the body or whether that might cause any kind of over tightening or stiffness? Is that something you've heard about before? Have you ever had a student come up to you and tell you that they sometimes get some pain in the pelvic area or even leaking, or maybe they've had children and they say they have leaking? So if that is something that you have heard about before or something you're interested in, then this is a really, really interesting subject. Why don't we just park all of that for a second and let's talk about the whole area, all the way from the diaphragm down to the pelvic floor. So this area from the diaphragm down to the pelvic floor is our abdominal cavity. This is a closed cavity. Unlike your thoracic cavity, which has a direct opening to the atmosphere, to the world, the abdominal region is a closed cavity. So it's a bunch of liquid and organs and connective tissues and vessels and everything all in this big bag or big closed bag. So if you've done breath training or you know about instructing the diaphragm in breathing, then you know that when you breathe in, that belly comes out. And we teach people, breathe in, let your belly come up and out. So that is your diaphragm contracting, pushing down. It connects to the lungs above it and it pushes down in and flattens to then push out the abdominal organs. And this is almost like a pumping action. So for the first 6 years of my teaching career, I was really great at instructing that, and I thought, I've got this, I know exactly what to do, and I feel like I'm really helping everybody with their breathing. Until I started accidentally wetting myself a little bit when I coughed and sneezed. And no, I haven't had any children, so that's not a thing. And I started looking into why is that happening in me. I am a regular person who hasn't had kids. And I started looking into the pelvic floor, and also this is an area that I obviously just became interested in anyway. So let's go lower down in that pump system and go back to the action that I previously said. So your diaphragm will contract and flatten on your inhale, your belly comes out. The very bottom of that closed, almost like piston system, is the pelvic bowl. Now this is a bowl of muscle, a sling of muscle that will react to pressures that are coming from above. So if we go back to that breathing again, inhale, that diaphragm comes down, stomach goes out, your pelvic floor will actually relax a little bit on that inhale. It has to accommodate the increase in pressure. Now on the exhale, this is when the pelvic floor then reacts to the lifting motion and slightly, ever so slightly contracts. So again, it goes a bit like this: inhale down and exhale up. And this is how we're designed to work. Let's just take that Mula Bandha, which we pinned earlier, and put it back in the forefront. Now think about an Ashtanga class, a Vinyasa class, or a Hatha class, for example, where you've decided that you're going to every now and again mention, draw in your Mula Bandha, Mula Bandha, Mula Bandha. We are then telling the abdominal cavity to pressurize from the bottom, and then you're telling people to keep breathing in through the belly. But we haven't actually instructed them or given them any education on how to relax that area. And this in yoga practitioners, but also in fitness professionals, not even professionals, in fitness geeks, people that do lots of fitness. This can create over stiffness and tightness in that pelvic floor. So as with the tone of any muscle in the body, we can train the pelvic floor to do what we want it to do. And if we go to yoga 3 times a week and we keep pulling it in, Mula Bandha, Mula Bandha, Mula Bandha, and then we instruct like an ujjayi breath, for example, and we close the throat and create tension here, we're now creating a lot of tension above and below. So have a think about how we could improve how we instruct that. I quite like having students lie on their back in the beginning and then perhaps knees up, feet down, and get them to connect to that pelvic floor. Include that in your class. 5 minutes at the beginning, and perhaps mentioning it a little bit throughout the practice. And of course we can keep the Mula Bandha, but let's reverse the Mula Bandha and relax it as well to create a healthy pressured system that both descends and ascends. That's all for today. Thank you.